Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of Women in Manufacturing's Hear Her Story podcast. My name is Allison Graylis, and I am the president and founder of the Women in Manufacturing Association and Education Foundation. As your host, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our guest for this episode, Michelle Taylor. Michelle is the Director of New Product Quality Commercial HVAC at Trane Technologies. In addition to possessing more than 27 years of experience and achievements in manufacturing, strategic sourcing, supply chain management, and quality, Michelle is also a 2022 inductee into the Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame. She's also received the Trane Technologies 2022 Quarter One President's Award for Leadership and the 2014 Supplier Diversity Advocate Buyer of the Year Award presented by Mid-States Minority Supplier Development Council. Michelle is quite accomplished. She's had a very accomplished career in manufacturing, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion. Welcome, Michelle.
First, thank you, Allison, for having me as a guest on the podcast today. It's great to be here with you, and I would like to recognize all the fantastic work the Women in Manufacturing Association and Education Foundation is doing to create access and education for women in manufacturing. So kudos to you and your phenomenal team.
Well, thank you, Michelle. That's very, very kind. And I'm so happy that, you're engaged with our organization and that your company is as well. And, our mission as an organization is to support, promote, and inspire women in manufacturing careers. And I think, having guests like you who can inspire and share your story is so important for people to you can't be what you can't see, and to get to hear from individuals like you, and you can share, how your journey led you to where you are present day in manufacturing. And then as well, having that honest conversation about some of the lessons learned and some of those challenges experienced along the way. So I'm happy to have this chat with you today.
Thank you.
So before we get started, often in our conversations, I really like to start where people first began. So I think it's always interesting to note and hear about an individual's, first start as a family, an individual, and as a child, and what motivated you and what inspired you and what molded you as an individual as you grew up as from child to then adult. So can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what you studied in school and what things interested you?
Sure. Thanks, Allison. So just a little bit about me. I grew up on the east side of Detroit, Michigan, with my three brothers and my parents. I attended the wonderful Detroit Cass Technical High School, and my curriculum was business administration. I enjoyed all things sports, music, and school. I began playing the violin at 9 years old and the flute, but my first love is the violin. My extracurricular activities included playing on the girls' golf team. I was a member of DECA, which is Distributive Clubs of America, which I enjoyed because DECA focused really on developing leadership skills for students. So I really enjoyed DECA a lot. And I also played JV basketball in school, and I was on the newspaper staff and in photography club. So I was pretty active. And I must say, anything that challenged me with my brothers was something that I enjoyed as well. So as you can imagine, growing up with three brothers in the house was educational, to say the least. So many of my stories of learning about cars from my brother James and learning about competition from my brother John. And since Tim was the baby, he was often my student when we would play school at home. So after high school, I graduated from Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, with a BS in organizational leadership from the Kenoi School of Technology. And then later, I received an MS in management from Indiana Wesleyan University. So that's a little bit about me, Allison.
That is really interesting. So growing up with three brothers, so you got an early start of what it's like to be one of just a few or one of only in a family. Yes. And it sounds like as well, they taught you a lot about different things that were real life skills for later on as you grew. And as I'm sure you started working and professionally pursuing your career. You mentioned the violin. Do you still play the violin?
Interestingly enough, I look at my violin a lot, but I do not play, but I enjoy the orchestra. And now that we're out of the COVID season to where we can start enjoying the aesthetics and the arts again, I'm really excited and thrilled to be able to go to hear the orchestra perform here in North Carolina, right here in Charlotte. And so that really is what I like to do in my spare time.
Very nice. And you mentioned being involved. So that's always something that I think is so interesting, that some of us, when we're younger, often from an early start, we just like to join and get involved and be a part of groups. Whereas other people, they don't naturally gravitate towards that interest of participating in extracurriculars. And at least my experience has been that that has always been something that has opportunities to connect to new organizations and individuals and gives you so much experience beyond just what you learn in a classroom or in a formal position. Yeah, how did you benefit from all of that extracurricular activity, both in elementary school and high school? How did that help you later on?
Yeah, great question, Allison. And so for me, it really taught me the spirit of friendly competition, teamwork, and that I do have a voice. And when you grow up in a house where there's three boys and you're the only girl, one thing that I do notice that I do really attribute to really growing into my voice and using it is that I got an early start. I got an early start with my brothers, and it just really cultivated an environment of leaning into listening, but at the same time having a voice in what I wanted to do and what I did not want to do. And my brothers, really taught me a lot about getting along. And just because I was a girl didn't mean that I couldn't play two-hand touch football, couldn't play tackle, but they allowed me to play two-hand touch. And it didn't mean that I couldn't learn how to start my car when my carburetor would go out on my car, and my brother would say, hey, take a screwdriver, stick it in the choke, open it up and get some air in there and you can turn your car over, right? So it's little things like that that I remember most, just growing up and just being of value and just learning how to just really be a team player, and that it didn't matter if I was a girl or a guy. I had a voice and I had something to contribute, and I could be respected for that.
And I think, that voice piece is so important. And I think having that confidence, especially in male dominated environments and industries and companies and organizations, you have to early on, I think, start to accept that power that we have within our own ideas and our expertise, and have confidence to share that voice and to speak up and to participate. And that's why I think early activity is so important. Those early leadership skills are critical for someone to realize, even if you're just a volunteer on a committee and or just a general member, you're contributing and you're seeing how decisions are made and you're seeing how priorities are set, and you're getting to take your ideas and set them into action. And so I'm a huge advocate for people to get involved. And I think the earlier the better we can get our kids involved, whether it be at Girl Scouts or in Cub Scouts or volunteering is also important, because it all shapes and forms the type of people that then we all get to interact with in daily life. And you can kind of sometimes you have interactions with people that maybe don't have that emotional intelligence or those skills. I wonder if they never got involved in service or never got involved in some of these things, because some of those things that you learn along the way are sometimes missed on some individuals, which is unfortunate.
You're absolutely right. And Allison, you bring up a good point. As I was sitting here thinking about the time where I did spend as a Girl Scout, and just thinking about that experience and really understanding why I really had an affinity for sisterhood and just wanting to have a sister, being in a house full of brothers. And so I learned very early that those friendships and uplifting my friends, my best friend, whose name was Michelle at the time, was important to me, because it was helping someone that is not necessarily in my household, and is not related to me, but is a girl just like me. And so being around other young ladies and female athletes and just really embodying that strength and that empowerment that I received from being in those types of circles has just been nothing short of outstanding for me as a woman and as a leader.
So true. And I think I likewise, when I was involved in Girl Scouts early, my mom was a troop leader, and I do attribute some of my earliest interests in working with female organizations to that experience with Girl Scouts, because it was people like me right? You mentioned we want to find commonality. We want to find people that have experienced similar things. And so I think that's as well my first introduction to that real concept of sisterhood and having each other's backs and being each other's supporters and having kind of silly fun, but also being creative and problem solving and all of those really cool things. And I never again successfully got my daughter involved. She went to one Girl Scout meeting and didn't go back. It was not her thing. But I think it's that piece that's so important. And as well, I think being able to showcase, hey, we can be allies rather than I think you mentioned earlier, you got to see your first introduction to competitiveness. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities in our futures to be competitive with different individuals and different initiatives, but how important it is to be each other's supporters and allies. And so I think I learned that early on as well through Girl Scouts. And then I was in a sorority and I did work, I went to an all-girls school. So it kind of continued beyond there, but there's such power in banding together. And that was one of the impetuses for creating WIM, was to have that community of other people like you that you can say, I got your back. Like, you shouldn't have to go through the same thing I experienced. I endured that pain. You shouldn't have to as well. And so I think if we can share that support and as well, kind of some of those war stories so others don't have to experience that, it's so important. So you had it sounds like a great childhood, then went to school in Indiana for both your undergrad and graduate degree. And then how did you figure out, what did you want to do beyond that? So after finishing, it was, I think, your master's, you said, how did you decide, what did you want to do professionally?
Yeah. So, Allison, it's interesting because I was led to a manufacturing career through my summer internship opportunities. Just a real quick story. I recall it was my second year at Purdue, and I was cutting through a building and a job fair was taking place. So I had to cut through the job fair to get to my class. And I didn't have a pen for class. So I stopped at the Allison Transmission Division of General Motors table and grabbed a pen and prepared to just walk off to class. And the recruiter stopped me and asked if I wanted to learn, more about the company other than just grabbing a pen. And so I explained to her that, I needed to get to class, but I promised I would return to the table after my class. And so I returned to the table after class, and she was happy that I came back. And then she said she was there to offer summer internships in just about every function at Allison Transmission. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I shared with her my interest and what I wanted to learn over the summer based on what I was beginning to learn in my industrial engineering classes and on time studies and manufacturing processes and ops leadership. And she offered me a sales engineering intern that summer. And I was exposed to the components of the transmission, but for me, it was more about understanding the functionality of the part, because I often found myself going to the production floor to see how the part was made and talking to the assembler or the machinist. And as an intern, I would sit in the sales meetings with sourcing and engineering to understand and be able to contribute to this discussion, but really start to understand the discussion. And so from that point on, I felt like every role I had would lead me back to the manufacturing shop floor for answers to my customer concerns and to my supply chain challenges. And that's how I began my career in manufacturing.
That is a great story. So how random, you go for a pen and it pop accidentally into a career fair and find yourself launching them into a long career in manufacturing. That is a very cool story.
Yes, I think about that often. And in that, I just had the best internship that summer, because in that same summer, me along with, I think it was probably about 75 interns that summer. They had a huge class of interns that summer. And one of our first intern meetings was to meet Dr. Edward Deming. He was there in Indianapolis giving a talk, and we had the opportunity to meet Dr. Deming. And I just could not believe that the person that I've been reading about, the guru that I've been reading about, here it is, I had the opportunity to actually meet him.
Phenomenal. And I mean, what power internships have. And it's a challenge. How do you reach people? Like, you would have potentially never known about this opportunity or these amazing internships that were being offered by Allison Transmission had you not stumbled into it. And so I think that's what we hear so often, is that people stumbled into or fell into a manufacturing career. And it's like, how do we as a society and how do we as female ambassadors talk more about this being a career of choice rather than by accident. And that's really, really cool. It's how you first made your way there. So then you started in this internship program. And then I know you've been, I think, in manufacturing now for more than 27 years. So how did you navigate those kind of next opportunities in that next position and role? Did you have this vision early on to say, okay, my dream is to be at X by this certain time in my career and at age? Or did you kind of just hear or learn or pursue opportunities as they came to you? How did you navigate those future years in manufacturing?
Yeah. So, Allison, I think coming into manufacturing, the first thing I wanted to learn was, well, first I was excited to, once I graduated and decided, yep, I'm going to go ahead and accept this role with Ford Motor Company. The first thing I wanted to do was, of course, learn about machining and understand as much about the products and components that I could. And so I knew that gravitating from machining onto assembly, operations, and the like would afford me opportunities to go elsewhere in other functions and ascend as well. And so really starting in machining and assembly operations really was the foundation of really opening up the doors for me to go in any direction. Fortunately, I had role models at the time that encouraged me to really stretch myself and my goals around manufacturing and going on to other functions like material planning and logistics, and even in so much as sourcing and supplier quality. And all the roads led back to the shop floor. It's like every question I ever had or every discussion I needed to have with the supplier or even within our ops departments, it was always at the helm of the manufacturing floor. And so I tease people today and say, I'm that plant rat, right? That just kind of just keeps reappearing. Because for me, over the years, it's the people manufacturing those parts and the skilled trades folks that are maintaining the equipment for us to do some miraculous things in our supply chain. And so I'm just, gosh, if you had given me the pen, I don't think I could have written my story like this. And I'm just really blessed.
And I think you so eloquently talked about it's that the people component within manufacturing. So often people are just thinking about that ultimate product that they're holding or that they're using or that's critical to their daily life, but not often thinking about the people at all levels of that production process that are making it possible to drive that vehicle or to use that product or that service. And the people part is so critically important in trying to attract a new generation of those people who are part of our manufacturing facilities and resident on our plant floors is so very difficult, because I think so often people have not experienced what modern manufacturing looks like, and they don't understand these amazing opportunities that are within manufacturing, within all different facets of the manufacturing process and within supply chain and in customer service, and so many amazing opportunities. And
absolutely, 100%.
We just don't know about them. I mean, it's the sad part is, and I often feel like a broken record, but it's like, how do you get to the K through 12 individuals and expose them to, there's not just these traditional careers of lawyer, doctor, attorney, there's certain set professions, but there's a whole world of other professions and opportunities that are connected to the things that we all rely on each and every day. And
absolutely, Allison. And that's an excellent point, because as we think about how manufacturing is evolving over the next few years and even just continuing to evolve, we've got to make sure we have a finger on the pulse of talent and growing them up earlier, having a fingerprint on the youth now to share it with them. Like, manufacturing jobs aren't like what they used to be when I would be running in between big noisy transfer machines and flume systems, having product going all over the place. It's nothing like that now. And it's important, like organizations that had the pleasure of working alongside to try to certainly have an influence on youth in manufacturing, like NAM and NSBE, to really start early and sharing and influencing career development and in STEM, and creating access for the youth to really have a chance to get exposed to what manufacturing and STEM careers can be like today. So really getting a fingerprint on the youth now. Their high school is great, and to continue to, of course, nurture that demographic, but we need to start much earlier now and really exposing the youth to the world of manufacturing and STEM careers.
And I know you volunteer your time, I think it is with the National Society of Black Engineers. So what have you experienced in your volunteering with this organization, and what have you seen to be some of those successful outcomes?
Yeah, so Allison, first, diversity in STEM is critically important. So when I think about the many contributions from Black scientists and engineers and mathematicians, that matters. And Black students who pursue careers in STEM stand on the shoulders of those Black STEM contributors like, NASA mathematicians like Dorothy Vaughan and Katherine Johnson and Mary Jackson, or Black scientists like George Washington Carver, and the phenomenal astronaut, engineer, and physician, Dr. May C. Jemison. So it's important that I support organizations like NSBE because I can share a word or an experience or influence a young person's career decision or provide access to developing a career in STEM. It's really critical that Black students are aware of the many contributions by our scientists and engineers, past and present. And so NSBE students can be the next scientist, engineer, or mathematician to make an impact on the world. And if I can be a part of that journey for those fantastic students, I am all in.
That's excellent. And I think it goes back to that mantra of you can't be what you can't see. And so it's showcasing your story, your success, your rise, and how you found a very successful career in this engineering, manufacturing, and STEM space, which is so important. And it's critically important for people to see others like them. And when we're talking to manufacturing companies all the time, they're often talking about being challenged with recruiting. And you ask, how are you recruiting? To which art organizations are you going to? Who are you sending to recruit? And if you're sending that same looking group of individuals to recruit on campuses or technical schools or communities, you're going to get that same type of demographic and people and participant in your workforce and in your talent pools. So important. And we've definitely got to start early as we're getting people exposed to manufacturing careers.
Absolutely, 100%.
With nearly a century of safety experience, EMC Insurance Companies knows how to help manufacturers like you prevent accidents and costly losses. That's because we invest heavily in loss control services and resources, which helps you turn loss control into cost control. At EMC, we go beyond the basic loss control survey. Our experienced field teams, engineers, safety consultants, and industrial hygiene professionals work with you to create custom workplace safety plans for your manufacturing business. We know that creating and maintaining a safe workplace is an around-the-clock effort. To help keep safety top of mind and at your fingertips, we provide a wide variety of online tools and on-demand trainings available whenever you need them. So what are you waiting for? Contact your local independent insurance agent today, or visit emcins.com and click Loss Control to find out how EMC Insurance Companies can help you better protect your manufacturing business.
Join the Women in Manufacturing Education Foundation as we present the 3rd Annual Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony and Gala on Wednesday, October 12th at 6 p.m. at the Omni Atlanta Hotel at CNN Center. The Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame seeks to recognize women who have made or are making renowned contributions to the manufacturing industry regarding efforts to support, promote, and inspire women in manufacturing. 13 trailblazing women will be inducted into our 2022 class following the WIM Summit. To purchase a table or an individual ticket to the gala, go to www.womeninmanufacturing.org. The Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony and Gala is presented by BASF.
So, we are thrilled to induct you this year into our 3rd annual class into the Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame. And, can you tell us a little bit about what this award means to you?
Well, first, wow. I am so excited and so very honored, to be among just outstanding women recognized for their achievements in manufacturing. This award means a great deal to me. It really does. It represents all the long shifts, the weekends worked in the plant as a young mom, and the village that helped support me and my family so I could be successful in this industry. My commitment through the years and sometimes through the tears was so that any young woman, including my daughters, my extended family, and my colleagues could have the chance to live their dreams through manufacturing STEM careers. I got to tell you, I'm a blessed woman to have seen what manufacturing looks like on just about every continent, and I will continue to do my best to inspire the next generation of women who seek excellence and innovation in manufacturing STEM careers. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you for all your contributions you've made to manufacturing. I mean, you've had a powerful career. And I think what's also wonderful and should be applauded is that you spend a lot of time doing mentoring and coaching and wanting to give back to that next generation of women in manufacturing. Can you share a little bit about how mentoring and coaching has impacted your life, and then as well, why you prioritize this present day to give time to individuals and to coach and mentor?
So coaching and mentoring is critically important. And I'm going to start with the fact that women must uplift other women. And I traveled to India a few times a year, and India holds a very special and dear place in my heart because one of my suppliers located just a few hours outside of Pune. This is when I used to travel to India quite a bit. Like, it was almost like going around the corner, like, oh, I'm going to India. And it felt like it was just going around the corner because it was just so often. And one of my suppliers was interested in diversifying their technical manufacturing team. And my supplier notified me regarding a group of young ladies who was attending the local engineering, like technical college. And I was asked to meet with these young ladies and mentor them for success as technical leaders at this machining company. So diversifying the management team with women was a first, right? And untraditional for this company, given the region. And so the supplier partnered with the school to ensure these ladies were ready to take on the task of being in technical roles at the machining company as women. And I enjoyed meeting with these young ladies regularly throughout my travels to India, hosting mentoring sessions with all of them and ensuring my India regional team also met with them and hosted them at our plant sites as well. So it was a collaboration that I am so, so proud of because these young women were making a socioeconomic impact to not only their communities, but to their families. And so I learned that creating access for women around the world has a universal impact. And we planted a tree to celebrate the occasion, and that was very meaningful and memorable for me.
Powerful. And I think you spoke to it. You know, it's not just the woman we're influencing as we introduce them to an opportunity or promote them or, speak about them as a great candidate in a room and we're talking about opportunities within an organization. You're then also impacting their kids, their families, their communities, their neighborhoods, their just financial wellness and well-being for so many people well beyond that woman. And I think your statement around uplifting one another, it's critical. And so I think that, you even see in the popular media stream, there's always this trying to pit women against each other. These people don't get along or they can't lead successfully together. And why do we go there? And it's so often just for dramatics and for entertainment value. And women could and should, and usually are, advocates for one another. And that uplifting piece is really important.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your 12 for 12 crew. I've never heard of this, and I'd love to hear about what this is and how did this begin and what does it do?
Thanks, Allison. So this is exciting for me because the 12-12 crew represents my birthday. So my birthday is December 12th. And the 12-12 crew, we celebrate in service. And so public service is very, very important to me because this is an act that demonstrates care, compassion, and kindness, and the cost is very little, but the impact is so great. And as a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a public service sorority, this is foundational for me. And so about 5 years ago, I decided to celebrate my birthday with a public service project. So I organized the first 12-12 event in Indianapolis. And when I text my girlfriends and sorority sisters on what I wanted to do for my birthday, they were all supportive. And of course, in grand fashion, each woman whom I love dearly reached out to join me at the food pantry, and we sorted and boxed food for the Indianapolis community that Saturday morning. And the pantry burst into song, "Happy Birthday," and my heart was just so full. And I said, from then on, I'm gonna try and keep this going. And then I wanted to expand it the next year with friends and family in Detroit as well. And so I knew the work we performed, really mattered, and it was making a difference. And so from there, again, I began to extend my network with friends and family. And now I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the 12-12 crew has emerged here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so in December 2021, the crew, we went out and we had a great time on a Saturday morning where we sorted clothes at a clothes ministry rummage room, and also placed items for those that are less fortunate or have a need for items for their homes. We sorted items for the home, kitchenware, clothes, and put them on shelves for people to come in with dignity and shop and be able to just know that, it doesn't cost them a thing. All it cost them was just to come in with a great vibe and a smile. And they definitely got about 16 different smiles from women wearing shirts that said 12-12 crew. So we're in the process of preparing for this year's Celebrate in Service, and I couldn't be more excited.
That is a great model and something that I think all of us could try to replicate, especially as we get older. I don't know about you, but I'm not as celebratory as I get to each kind of elder year. It's still fun.
Yes.
But I think that what a great way to celebrate with service, as you said, on your birthday, and to do things that are directly impacting lives in your local communities, and now having people doing this in other parts outside of just even where you live. Yes. That is really powerful.
It is. And I just thank my friends and sorority sisters for leaning in and helping out. And it takes a village really to be able to coordinate having 3 different 12-12 events taking place, but they don't even hesitate. And I'm just so grateful to have that network of sisterhood and family and friends. And so we're ready. I'm amped up for this birthday because we're going to have some new shirts from some new sponsors. We've got Trane Technologies. Folks is going to join in, and Trane, they really do show up, really, no kidding, cooler than a fan. I just got to tell you. And so I am so excited for this year's event because I know it's just going to be extraordinary. And the ladies here at Trane who have already said, yep, sign me up, Michelle. I'll certainly volunteer. I have not received a no yet.
Well, you'll have to keep us posted on the success of this year's
12-12
activity. And service is so important. We actually have integrated now a service component to our annual summit that we do each year. And this year we're doing a service project to impact those who are in need of meals and support and sustenance in Atlanta. And last year we did a program for making meals for schools and for kids. So it's just important. I mean, to leave a mark or to somehow leave a positive impact on a place that's hosting us, for example, for 3 days, or where we live every day, is so important, especially when many of us live very blessed lives and have the ability to do that and to help others.
Indeed.
So as we usually wrap up our conversations, we like to do some rapid fire questions and get some great recommendations from you, perhaps, on some things we should be checking out. So the first question is, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote, I have a few actually, but the one that always is top on the list is, I either win or learn, I never lose, by Mr. Nelson Mandela. And that encompasses my spirit of competition, because when I think about competition, there has to be a first place and a second place, or a winner or a loser. But For me, no, because I know in that process I learned something. Therefore, as long as I'm learning, I could never be losing. So kudos to Brother Nelson Mandela for that quote, because it lives inside of me.
Love that. I've never heard that one, and I really like that. I'll have to carry that forward as well. And can you tell us what is your favorite book?
Okay, see, I have several favorites, but I'm going to go with Heart of a Woman by Maya Angelou. She's definitely at the top of my list. And she is just inspiration to the nth degree. And she is missed, but her work lives on forever.
And where was the last place you traveled?
San Francisco, Napa. I went to San
Nice.
Francisco and
So
Napa, yeah.
For pleasure, I hope.
Well, San Francisco was work. Napa, definitely pleasure.
And then goals. Have you set any goals for yourself, either personally or professionally, for the rest of this year or looking into 2023?
Yeah, so obviously, for obvious reasons, a successful 12/12 celebrating service. So that is definitely a goal that I have for the remainder of the year. So the planning is going well, and the support is going well there. So now I just got to bring it home and show up. So really excited about 12/12. And then I want to really give some thought, Allison, to two things that matter to me. And then in the year ahead, I really want to on purpose make them matter. So in other words, select two things that matter to me and make them matter in the year ahead. So there's some work there for me to do. And I'm embarking on some things that I really want to uncover in the philanthropic community here in Charlotte. And I'm hoping that it can come to fruition in 2023. So I'm going to work hard at really sitting down, and as I get ready to prepare my mind and heart and soul for 2023 and what I want to do, what I want to do.
I love that. So identifying, as you said, what matters and then making it matter and making that impact and taking it to the next step is so important. We all have things that we care about, but what are we doing about those things? So as we close out our conversations on Hear Her Story, I often like to ask, what is the one piece of advice that you would want to share or that you'd like to share today with the next generation of women in manufacturing careers?
Yeah, and thanks again, Allison, for having me today. I'm excited and just honored, and I'm looking forward to October 12th in Atlanta with all the wonderful inductees. I am really looking forward just to having the chance to meet them. So thank you again for that. The one piece of advice that I would share with the next generation of women in manufacturing is, as STEM professionals, we're problem solvers. And we ask questions to discover the why and how to make better happen. Even when it feels like we're questioning, keep asking questions. Shift the mindsets by questioning the status quo. So that is my piece of advice. Even when it feels like you're questioning, and you probably are, keep asking questions and questioning, because that's what shifts our mindsets, and that's how we make better happen. And if I may, also create access for other women by uplifting and promoting other women.
Thank you, Michelle. What great words of wisdom, what great advice to current women in all parts of their careers in manufacturing. And it was such a great conversation we had today. And I can't wait to celebrate you and your fellow inductees, our annual Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So again, praise to you. You've done an amazing job leading the way for other women. And thanks for all of your contributions. And thanks for sharing your story on Hear Her Story today. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you for listening to Hear Her Story, a podcast produced by the Women in Manufacturing Association. Be sure to share, review, and subscribe to Hear Her Story on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.